That Thanksgiving night, the cake I'd spent all evening perfecting was hurled straight into the trash by my mother while my brother raised his glass and sneered, "Nobody wants your cake anyway." They thought that humiliation would silence me like every other year, but they forgot I live by flour, sugar, and discipline, and I understand every invoice, every debt behind that perfect family feast. From the moment vanilla butter mingled with the stench of garbage, my revenge began. My name is Ava Hart, and I've spent 33 years learning that family isn't who you're born to, it's who stands beside you when the world tries to break you down. The kitchen in my parents' Maple Ridge home blazed under harsh halogen tracks, every surface gleaming with that aggressive cleanliness my mother Elaine demanded for holidays. I set my 3-tier pumpkin maple chantilly cake on the granite island, adjusting the caramelized sugarwork that crowned it my grandmother's technique, perfected over months of practice. The smell of brown butter and vanilla bean paste still clung to my chef's jacket. "What's that supposed to be?" Elaine's voice cut through the clatter of serving spoons. She circled my creation like a health inspector finding violations. "Looks like something from a discount bakery." My father, Richard, didn't look up from carving the turkey. 28 years of marriage had taught him the precise angle to hold his head to avoid taking sides. "It's Grandma Rose's recipe," I said quietly. "The one she made for every family gathering before she died and left us with boxes of useless recipe cards." Cole interrupted, my 36-year-old brother materializing beside the cake with his phone already recording. "Nobody wants your sad tribute cake, Ava. We've got actual dessert from Maple Crest Lodge's pastry chef." The dining room beyond held 15 relatives, all waiting for the annual Hart family performance of prosperity and perfection. Cole's Hart & Co. Events banner hung across the archway, the business he'd built with $15,000 he'd borrowed from my bakery startup fund and never returned. "At least move it to the back table," Elaine said, her manicured nails drumming against the marble. "It's throwing off the whole presentation." I watched her hands move toward my cake, the cake that had taken me 6 hours to balance the moisture levels, to whip the chantilly to exactly the right consistency, to caramelize each decorative leaf without burning. Her fingers closed around the porcelain stand. "Mom." She lifted it with theatrical disgust, pivoted toward the kitchen trash can, the commercial-sized one she'd bought specifically for entertaining, and tilted the entire creation into it. The layers collapsed against coffee grounds and turkey trimmings. Caramel shards shattered against the plastic liner. "Much better," she announced, brushing imaginary crumbs from her hands. "Now we can serve desserts people actually want." Cole's laugh barked across the kitchen. "Should have stuck to your little bakery. Ava, leave the real entertaining to professionals." He ended his recording, already typing a caption. Within seconds, my phone buzzed with the notification, "When your sister thinks she's too good for store-bought dar Thanksgiving fail war know your place." The scent of vanilla and butter rose from the trash, mixing with the acrid smell of wasted effort. My hands trembled, not with tears, but with something colder, more calculated. I pulled out my phone and took 3 photos: the destroyed cake in the garbage, Cole's social media post, and the smug satisfaction on my mother's face as she arranged store-bought pies on my grandmother's serving platters. "I need some air," I said. "Don't be dramatic," Elaine called after me. "It's just a cake." But standing on the back porch, watching my breath fog in the November air, I knew better. It wasn't just a cake. It was every holiday they'd diminished my work, every family gathering where Cole's ventures got celebrated while mine got dismissed, every moment they'd made me small to make themselves feel bigger. I opened my phone's notes app and typed 3 words: evidence, strategy, execution. They thought they'd won with that theatrical cruelty. They had no idea they'd just taught me the most valuable lesson of my career. Sometimes the best recipes require letting things ferment in darkness before they're ready to rise. The drive back to my apartment gave me 20 minutes to dissect 33 years of family dynamics. Elaine Hart built her identity on appearances: the perfect hostess with the perfect home and the perfect children. As long as you didn't look too closely. Richard Hart existed in perpetual neutral, a successful insurance broker who treated conflict like a liability claim to be avoided, and Cole Golden Boy Cole, who peaked in high school but convinced everyone he was still ascending. I knew their weaknesses because I'd been studying them my whole life. The way you study ingredients to understand how they'll react under heat. My phone rang as I pulled into my building's garage. Maya Quinn, my college roommate turned civil attorney. Saw Cole's post, she said without preamble. Please tell me you're finally done with them. I'm done being their punching bag, I corrected, climbing the stairs to my third-floor unit. I'm just getting started with everything else. Inside my apartment, sparse but mine. Every penny earned through 16-hour days at Juniper and Slate Confections, I opened my laptop and began mapping the Hart family empire. Cole's Hart & Co. Events operated out of Maple Crest Lodge, a historic property he'd leveraged to the hilt for renovations. The $15,000 he'd borrowed from me 3 years ago was supposedly for marketing materials. I'd never seen a single brochure. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah Chen, a high school classmate who worked at the county clerk's office. Heard you're looking for public records on Maple Crest Lodge. Check your email. The attachments painted a picture Cole wouldn't want framed 3 liens for unpaid contractor work. A property tax bill 4 months overdue. And most interesting, a failed health department inspection from 6 weeks ago with a 60-day correction deadline approaching fast. I called Lucia Delgado, my silent partner at the bakery who'd made her fortune in distressed debt before retiring to angel investing. Ava, it's 10:30 at night on Thanksgiving, which means the markets are closed and you're bored. Her laugh was whiskey smooth. What do you need? Information on purchasing distressed debt. Specifically, a second mortgage on a property that's bleeding money. Is this about your brother's place? The one he posts about constantly like he owns it free and clear. You follow Cole's social media. I follow every investment in this town, including the ones circling the drain. Maple Crest Lodge has a primary mortgage with First National and a bridge loan with North Hollow Capital for the renovations. From what I hear, he's been making interest-only payments for 8 months. I pulled up North Hollow's website, small regional lender, the kind that packaged loans for resale when they needed liquidity. Could someone buy that note? I asked. Someone with good credit and liquid assets could. Someone who happened to know the borrower was about to default would be making a very strategic investment. Hypothetically, that someone would control the terms of repayment. Could call the note due with proper notice. Could force a sale if payments weren't made. She paused. This isn't really about money, is it? It's about understanding that every choice has a cost. Cole's been running a tab he thought he'd never have to pay. And your parents. I thought about Elaine's manicured hands dropping my grandmother's recipe into the trash, about Richard's practiced blindness, about 15 years of being told my career was a hobby while they promoted Cole's every venture. They co-signed his loans, I said. Their retirement account is his collateral. Jesus, Ava. They made their choice tonight, publicly, on camera, actually. I forwarded her Cole's video. I'm just making sure they understand that choices have consequences. You know, once you start this, there's no going back to Sunday dinners. I looked at the photos on my phone, my cake destroyed, my work dismissed, my family choosing cruelty over kindness one more time. There were never Sunday dinners, Lucia, just performances where I played the role of the disappointing daughter who should be grateful for a seat at the table. I closed my laptop. I'm done being grateful for scraps. Maya arrived at my apartment at 8 the next morning, legal pad in one hand and a box of evidence folders in the other. Her usually immaculate suit was replaced with jeans and a Columbia Law sweatshirt, her war uniform for serious case building. First rule of clean revenge, she said, spreading documents across my dining table. Everything documented, everything legal, everything defensible in court. We started with the timeline. November 24th, 11:43 p.m. Cole's Instagram post with my cake in the trash. 1,700 views and climbing. November 22nd. Email thread where I'd told my mother I was bringing Grandma's recipe. October 15th. Venmo request from 3 years ago. Bakery loan repayment, still marked pending. "This is gold," Maya muttered, screenshotting Cole's business Facebook page. "He's using your Meyer lemon lavender tart in his promotional materials. Look, Hart Family Original Recipe." I pulled out my recipe notebook, its pages dated and photographed. Filed with the Copyright Office last year as a collection, every recipe, every variation, every family adaptation I modernized. Smart. "What about the bakery loan?" I showed her the text thread from 3 years ago. Cole promising repayment within 6 months. Then excuses. Then silence. Then him posting about his successful launch of Hart & Co., events with professional photos that cost more than what he owed me. "We'll draft a formal demand letter," Maya said. "But first, let's talk about Maple Crest Lodge." Lucia had sent over the bridge loan details at 6 a.m. North Hollow Capital held a $300,000 note, with Cole 4 payments behind. The 60-day health violation grace period expired in 2 weeks. "If he can't fix the violations, the health department suspends his catering license," Maya explained. "No license, no income, no income, no loan payments. It's dominoes. Can we buy the note before then?" "Lucia's already set up Delgado and Hart LLC? Yes, she used your name on purpose. Says it's poetic justice. The transfer can happen Monday if North Hollow accepts the offer." I studied the inspection report. Improper cold storage temperatures, gap in pest control documentation, missing allergen protocols ironically, the same protocols I'd helped Cole write when he started. "There's more," Maya said, pulling out her phone. "Remember Jessica Reeves from culinary school? She manages events at the Grandview Hotel now. Called me last night after seeing Cole's post. She played a voicemail. Maya, tell Ava I'm sorry about her family being trash. Also, Cole's been pitching our holiday contract using her winter spice menu as his signature collection. I've got the proposal he sent. It's word for word her recipes." My hands stilled on the copyright filing. "He's bidding on Grandview. Next Friday. Biggest holiday contract in the region. He's been telling them the recipes are Hart family traditions passed down for generations." I thought about my grandmother, teaching me to temper chocolate in her cramped apartment kitchen. How she'd written every recipe in pencil so we could adjust, improve, perfect. How I'd spent 2 years modernizing those recipes, testing ratios, documenting everything. "We send a cease and desist to him and copy to Grandview," Maya said. "Completely factual here are the copyrights. Here's the infringement. Here's the remedy required. What if he ignores it? Then we file for an immediate injunction, but he won't ignore it. Not when Grandview sees it. No hotel legal department touches a vendor with active IP disputes." Noah Pierce texted from the bakery. "Health inspector just called to confirm our perfect score. Mentioned they're doing follow-ups on all facilities with violations. Want me to casually mention we're booked solid for holiday catering?" I smiled for the first time in 2 days. "Tell Noah to mention we just had to turn down events because we're at capacity. Let the inspector know how seriously we take food safety." Maya organized everything into categories: financial claims, intellectual property, health and safety documentation, communication records. Each folder felt like ammunition being loaded. "You know they'll call this petty," she warned. "Let them." They called my career a hobby, called my work worthless, posted it online for entertainment. I signed the LLC formation papers Lucia had sent. "I'm not being petty, I'm being precise." "The best revenge is served with proper documentation," Maya agreed, then paused. "Ava, are you prepared for them to never forgive you?" I thought about forgiveness, about family, about the difference between blood and chosen bonds. Maya, who'd driven over at dawn. Lucia, who'd worked through the holiday. Noah, holding down the bakery. "They never forgave me for existing differently than they wanted," I said. "At least now I'll exist on my own terms." The Thanksgiving redo started as 3 lines in my notebook and evolved into something bigger than revenge. Noah suggested it during our Monday morning prep at Juniper and Slate, while we shaped croissant dough and planned the week's menu. "You want to show them what they threw away," he said, his hands working butter into layers. Show the whole town. Make it about more than just them. By noon, I'd sketched the concept of free community gathering in Riverside Park the following Saturday. My grandmother's recipes, particularly the pumpkin maple chantilly they'd trashed, served to anyone who brought a donation for the Maple Ridge Community Shelter. Not a word about family drama, just a celebration of food, tradition, and genuine gratitude. "It's brilliant," Lucia said over coffee that afternoon. "You're creating a contrast without saying anything. Their performative Thanksgiving versus your authentic one." The permit office approved it in record time. Mrs. Patterson, who'd been running community events for 20 years, actually clapped when I explained the concept. "About time someone remembered what these holidays mean," she said, stamping the approval. "My daughter bought her wedding cake from you. Still talks about that brown butter frosting." Noah coordinated with 3 other local food trucks to join us. The Riverside Coffee Cart offered free hot beverages. Even Thompson's Market donated ingredients, the owner mentioning how my grandmother had given his mother her bread recipe during the recession of '91. "We're calling it Grandma's Table," I told the Maple Ridge Gazette reporter who called Tuesday afternoon. Depression-era generosity meets modern community spirit. "This wouldn't have anything to do with that viral video from Thanksgiving?" she asked carefully. "I don't know what you mean," I replied, which was true enough. Cole's video had been deleted after it gained the wrong kind of attention comments asking what kind of family throws away homemade desserts. Wednesday brought unexpected allies. 7 of my regular customers volunteered to help serve. The high school culinary program offered their portable ovens. Local businesses started calling, wanting to contribute. "You're building something they can't tear down," Maya observed, reviewing the growing list of participants. "Community capital." Thursday morning, Lucia showed me the North Hollow papers. "The note transfer closes tomorrow. They accepted our offer immediately, desperate for liquidity. As of 2 p.m. Friday, Delgado and Hart LLC controls Cole's bridge loan." Same day as his Grandview presentation. "Coincidence?" she said with a sharp smile. "Though I did ensure our cease and desist arrives at Grandview by courier at 1 p.m., right when their legal department is returning from lunch." Noah had transformed our commercial kitchen into a military operation. 6 bakers working in shifts, 50 pumpkin maple chantilly cakes in various stages, hundreds of individual portions in compostable containers donated by an eco-friendly packaging startup I'd helped launch. "This is costing you thousands," he pointed out, checking inventory. "Worth every penny," I said, testing the chantilly consistency. "Some investments aren't about money." My phone buzzed constantly. Elaine had called 18 times since Cole's video disappeared. Richard sent formal texts requesting family discussions. I responded to neither. Instead, I focused on the work, the precision of measuring spices, the meditation of kneading dough, the chemistry of emulsification. Each recipe carried my grandmother's wisdom, refined through my training, offered freely to people who'd appreciate it. Local news wants to cover the redo, Noah mentioned Thursday night. "Feel-good story for the weekend segment." "Perfect timing," Maya said from the corner where she'd been working. "The cease and desist will be public record by then. Reporters love checking court filings." Friday arrived with frost on the windows and clarity in my intentions. At 1 p.m., while Cole was probably adjusting his tie in the Grandview lobby, a courier delivered our intellectual property claim to their legal department. At 2 p.m., Lucia confirmed the loan transfer completion. At 2:30, my phone exploded with calls from my family. I turned it off and continued piping maple buttercream roses. "The shelter just posted about tomorrow." Noah showed me his phone. "They're calling it the largest food donation drive they've seen. Local restaurants are jumping in. It's becoming a movement." That evening, we loaded the trucks. Every cake perfect, every detail planned, every person involved there by choice, not obligation. "You know they'll show up tomorrow," Lucia warned. "I'm counting on it," I said, checking the fondant decorations one last time. "The difference is, tomorrow they'll be standing in my space, surrounded by my community, watching my work being celebrated instead of thrown away. And if they cause a scene, I thought about the documentation Maya had prepared, the loan documents in Lucia's briefcase, the health inspector scheduled to visit Maplecrest on Monday. Then they'll learn that scenes play differently when you're not controlling the stage. Friday at 3 p.m., while Riverside Park buzzed with redo preparations, the first domino fell. Maya called from her office, voice tight with professional satisfaction. Grandview's legal department just contacted me. They've suspended contract negotiations with Hart & Co., pending resolution of intellectual property claims. Cole apparently had a meltdown in their lobby. I set down the piping bag I'd been using to detail sugar work. Define meltdown. Security footage shows him shouting about family recipes being public domain. Then he called their legal team small-town idiots who wouldn't know haute cuisine from Happy Meals. They're considering a formal complaint. Through the bakery window, I watched Lucia's Lincoln pull up. She entered carrying a manila folder like a weapon. "It's done," she announced. "Delgado and Hart LLC now owns Cole's bridge loan. 300,000 plus accumulated interest and penalties. Comes to $327,462.18. Noah whistled low from the oven station. "That's specific." "Debt always is," Lucia replied, handing me the folder. "The best part. According to the terms, we can demand full payment with 14 days' notice if the borrower is in violation of any local business regulations, like health code violations. Exactly like that, which expire Monday if not remedied. I had my paralegal pull the permits Cole needs, $40,000 minimum to fix the refrigeration and update the pest control systems." My phone, finally turned back on, showed 43 missed calls. The most recent voicemail was from Richard, his insurance broker voice trying to sound paternal. "Ava, this has gone far enough. Your mother is distraught. Cole's business is suffering. We need to handle this as a family." "Funny how it's family when they need something," Noah muttered. I played the next message. Elaine's voice shrill. "How dare you interfere with Cole's contracts, and this ridiculous event tomorrow, you're embarrassing us. Cancel it immediately, or—" I deleted it without hearing the threat. There were always threats, usually involving exclusion from family events I hadn't wanted to attend anyway. At 4 p.m., Maya's paralegal delivered the formal notice to Maplecrest Lodge, 14 days to cure the health violations and pay the overdue loan amount in full, or face acceleration of the entire debt. Simultaneously, certified letters went to Elaine and Richard at their home address as co-signers. They needed proper legal notification. "Cole's calling," Noah said, showing me his phone. "Why's he calling the bakery? Put him on speaker." Cole's voice filled the kitchen. "I know she's there. Tell her this is illegal. Tell her she can't—" "Mr. Hart," Maya interrupted, taking the phone. "Any communication regarding the loan or intellectual property matters should go through legal channels. We've provided contact information in the notices. This is family business." "No," Maya corrected. "This is business. Your sister is protecting her intellectual property and executing legal remedies for documented debts. If you'd like to discuss settlement terms—" He hung up. At 5:30, as we loaded the last supplies for tomorrow's event, an unexpected visitor arrived. Jessica Reeves from Grandview, holding a banker's box. "These are all the materials Cole submitted for the bid," she said. "Every recipe, every photo, every description stolen from your portfolio. Legal asked me to return them since we're obviously not moving forward." I flipped through the proposals. My winter spice menu, my champagne cake design, my plating techniques, all with Hart family tradition stamped across the top. He told us these went back generations," Jessica said, "but I recognized your technique immediately. Nobody else does sugar work with that particular spiral. What will Grandview do for holiday catering? Funny you should ask." She smiled. "Legal cleared us to approach Juniper and Slate Confections. Interested." The contract she produced was everything Cole had been chasing, 6 figures, December through New Year, with options for Valentine's and Easter. "This is conditional on tomorrow going well," she admitted. The board wants to see how you handle large-scale events." After she left, we stood in the kitchen surrounded by evidence of two different paths, Cole's theft and my creation, his desperation and my preparation, his demands and my documentation. "You're going to destroy him," Noah said quietly. "No," I corrected. "He destroyed himself. I'm just presenting the bill." Shoo, at 11:45 that night, a text from Lucia. "North Hollow Capital is already asking if we'd consider selling the note back at a premium. They've heard about tomorrow's event. Seems the whole town's talking about it." I looked at the rows of perfect cakes waiting for tomorrow, each one a redemption of what they'd thrown away. Tell them the note's not for sale. Some debts need to be paid in full. Saturday arrived crisp and bright. Perfect November weather for an outdoor event. But at 10 a.m., 3 hours before the redo, Cole orchestrated his last desperate play at Maple Crest Lodge's grand tasting event for regional vendors. I wasn't there, but Mitchell Ross from the health department was. He called me at 10:15, barely containing his amusement. "Your brother just tried to serve sample plates from a kitchen I'm actively re-inspecting," he said. "Temperature logs still missing. New refrigeration unit not installed." And somehow, he thought hosting vendors during an active inspection would show confidence in our improvements. In the background, I heard Cole's voice rising. "This is sabotage, my sister." "Mr. Hart," Mitchell's professional tone cut through. "Your sister didn't fail to maintain proper cold storage for 3 months. She also didn't invite 20 vendors to witness me posting a cease operations notice." The inspection had been scheduled weeks ago. Public record anyone could have checked. Cole simply assumed rules bent for Hart family members, the way they always had in Elaine's kitchen. By 11 a.m., the Maple Ridge Facebook group was buzzing. Maple Crest Lodge shut down during tasting. Vendors left without lunch at Hart & Co. Event. Health inspector posts red notice photos inside. Noah showed me his phone while we set up tables at Riverside Park. He's melting down on Instagram. Listen to this, jealous competitors trying to destroy legitimate family business. Will sue for defamation and interference. Screenshot everything, Maya advised, arranging legal documents in her briefcase for later. Defamation requires false statements. Truth is an absolute defense. At 11:30, Lucia parked herself at a picnic table with a clear view of all approaches, laptop open to monitor bank notices. "Just got an email from Cole's lawyer. They're requesting an emergency extension on the loan payment." Response: "Denied. The 14-day notice stands. By the way, your parents tried to withdraw from their retirement account this morning. The bank called me since it's listed as collateral. They need both signatures and a release from the lien holder, which is now us." At noon, with vendors setting up and volunteers arriving, an unwelcome convoy appeared Elaine's white Mercedes, Richard's Audi, and Cole's wrapped Hart & Co. van with its logo featuring my design splashed across the side. They parked illegally along the park's edge and approached like a delegation expecting surrender. Elaine had dressed for war in her best St. John suit. Richard looked exhausted. Cole's face was blotched with rage. "You need to stop this immediately," Elaine announced, loud enough for nearby volunteers to hear. "Call off your lawyers. Return the loan to the original bank, and apologize to Cole for interfering with his business." I continued arranging cake stands, each one labeled with my grandmother's original recipe names. "I'm busy. If you have legal concerns, contact Maya Quinn. Her cards are on that table." "We're your family." Richard finally spoke, his insurance voice cracking. "Doesn't that mean anything?" "It meant something when I was building my business and Cole needed startup money. It meant something when I spent 6 hours making a cake for Thanksgiving. Strange how it only means something when you need it to." Cole stepped forward, fists clenched. "You're destroying everything over a stupid cake." "No," I said clearly, aware that phones were now recording. "I'm protecting my intellectual property, collecting documented debts, and choosing to spend my Saturday giving back to the community. You destroyed everything by stealing recipes, defaulting on loans, and failing health inspections. Those recipes are family property, filed with the Copyright Office under my name, based on my adaptations, developed in my kitchen. I pulled out the certified copies Maya had prepared. Here's the filing. Here's your cease and desist. Here's the loan transfer making Delgado and Hart LLC your creditor. Elaine's face went white. The retirement account is collateral on a loan that's being called due in 13 days, Lucia said pleasantly from her table. Unless Mr. Hart can pay $327,000 or cure his health violations by Monday to maintain his business license. Monday, Cole's voice cracked. The contractors can't even deliver equipment until Wednesday. Then you should have maintained your equipment properly the first time, Mitchell Ross said, appearing with his inspection forms. He'd come for the redo but couldn't resist observing. By the way, attempting to operate during my cease order could result in criminal charges. The crowd was gathering now, not aggressively, but with the weight of community judgment. These were people who'd bought cakes from me, who'd seen Cole's Thanksgiving video before he deleted it, who understood exactly what was happening. We'll sue, Elaine hissed. For what? Maya stepped forward. Enforcing legal contracts, protecting intellectual property. Please do. Discovery would be fascinating. They retreated then, but not before Cole tried one last shot. No one will work with you after this. Everyone will know you're the sister who destroyed her own family. I looked at the growing crowd, customers, vendors, volunteers, competitors who'd become friends all here by choice, building something together. You're right, I said. Everyone will know exactly who I am. By 2 p.m., Riverside Park had transformed into exactly what I'd envisioned, a genuine community gathering that made my family's forced festivities look like the hollow performances they were. 300 people had already come through, each leaving donations that overflowed the shelter's collection trucks. At the center of it all stood the rebuilt monument to what they'd thrown away, 50 pumpkin maple chantilly cakes, each slice served on compostable plates with my grandmother's name and story printed on small cards. Rose Hart, who fed neighbors during the Depression and taught that abundance means nothing if not shared. The local news crew arrived at 2:30, interviewing volunteers and capturing the joy that comes from freely given generosity. When they asked me for a comment, I kept it simple. My grandmother believed food was love made tangible. This is her love. Continuing. At 3 p.m., they returned. This time, Elaine had recruited reinforcements, her sister Patricia from Columbus, 2 cousins, and worst of all, my grandmother's surviving sister, Great-Aunt Dorothy, 91 and sharp as her knitting needles. They positioned themselves near the cake station like they belonged there, Elaine already talking loudly about our family's commitment to community service when the news camera swung their way. Isn't it wonderful, she proclaimed, how the Hart family recipes bring everyone together? I felt the crowd's energy shift, confusion, tension, the anticipation of conflict. But I'd learned from the best teacher's butter that wouldn't emulsify, chocolate that seized, soufflés that fell. Sometimes the best response to disruption is incorporation. Aunt Dorothy, I called out warmly, walking over with a piece of cake. I'm so glad you came. This is Grandma Rose's exact recipe, the one you taught her in 1952. Dorothy's eyes, clouded with age but bright with memory, fixed on Elaine. I did teach her, taught her to share it freely, too. Never charge family, never waste food, never use it as a weapon. The news camera caught it all. This is the cake, Dorothy continued, tasting it slowly, that Elaine threw in the garbage on Thanksgiving. Yes. I saw the video before it disappeared. My granddaughter sent it to me. Elaine's face cycled through shades of mortification. That was a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, Dorothy announced. You threw away Rose's recipe because your daughter made it instead of your son. Now you're here claiming credit for her generosity. Rose would be ashamed. Cole, who'd been lurking by the drinks table, chose that moment to attempt damage control. Can we discuss this privately, as a family? Family. An unexpected voice cut through Mrs. Patterson from the permit office. Mr. Hart, Didn't you just lose the Grandview contract for stealing your sister's recipes and claiming them as family traditions? The crowd's murmur grew. Several people pulled out phones, no doubt searching for the public records Maya had made sure were easily findable. That's just business competition. It's theft, Jessica Reeves said, appearing with several Grandview board members who'd come to observe the event. We've seen the copyright filings. Every recipe you submitted was created and registered by your sister. I stayed silent, letting the truth spread like properly proofed dough. But Lucia couldn't resist adding, "Speaking of business, Mr. Hart, you have 12 days remaining to pay off your bridge loan or cure your health violations. Clock's ticking." You vindictive Cole started toward me, but Noah and 3 other volunteers stepped between us. "I'd think carefully about your next words," Maya said coolly. "Threatening someone at a public event, in front of news cameras, while you're under cease operations orders, that's not going to help your situation." Richard finally found his voice. "Ava, please, the retirement account will lose everything." "You chose to co-sign his loans," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You chose to enable his failures. You chose to throw away my work. Every consequence you're facing comes from choices you made." "But we're family." Elaine's perfect composure finally cracked completely. "No," I said, handing another slice of cake to a small child. "Family shows up to support you. Family celebrates your success. Family doesn't destroy your work for entertainment." I gestured to the crowd around us, Noah managing the serving line, Lucia protecting the legal flank, Maya documenting everything, regular customers volunteering their Saturday, competitors offering their equipment. This is family, chosen, earned, reciprocal family. The news reporter stepped forward with her microphone. "Ms. Hart, would you like to comment on the situation with Hart & Co. Events?" I looked directly at the camera, then at my blood relatives who'd never truly seen me. Hart & Co. Events built its reputation on stolen recipes and family exploitation. As of Monday, they'll no longer be able to use any of my created content. The community deserves to know what they're really buying and who really created it. "You're ruining us!" Cole shouted. "No," I said, already turning away. "You ruined yourselves. I'm just requiring payment." The crowd parted as I walked back to the serving station. Behind me, I heard Aunt Dorothy's voice. "Rose would be proud of you. Ava, you learned the most important recipe backbone with a side of justice." The settlement papers were signed at 9 a.m. Monday morning in Maya's conference room. Cole looked hollow, his usual swagger replaced by the posture of absolute defeat. The health department's cease operations order had been the final blow without an active business license. He couldn't even claim hardship delays. "Initial here," Maya indicated, her voice professionally neutral. "This confirms the repayment schedule, $15,000 immediately for the original loan, the remaining bridge loan balance to be paid through liquidation of Maplecrest Lodge." Cole's hand shook as he signed. Elaine and Richard sat beside him, their retirement dreams evaporating with each pen stroke. They'd had to break their 40-year commitment to First National Bank, take a penalty on their IRA withdrawal, and accept that their golden years would be significantly less golden. "The intellectual property agreement," Maya continued. "Hart & Co. Events or any future business ventures by Mr. Cole Hart cannot use any recipes, techniques, or promotional materials created by Ms. Ava Hart." "This is everything," Cole muttered. "The entire menu system." "Should have thought of that before you stole it," Lucia said from her corner chair. The final document was the written apology, to be posted on all Hart & Co. social media accounts and remain for 30 days. Cole read it aloud through gritted teeth. "I, Cole Hart, acknowledge that I inappropriately used original recipes created by my sister, Ava Hart, without permission or attribution. I apologize for the professional harm and personal disrespect this caused. Hart & Co. Events will cease operations immediately." After they left, Elaine refusing to look at me, Richard mumbling about family therapy, Cole silent in his rage, Maya, Lucia, and I sat in the quiet conference room, The check cleared, Lucia confirmed, showing her phone. $15,000 back in your account, plus interest calculated from the original loan date. Maplecrest Lodge. I asked. Bank foreclosure within 60 days. Market value should cover the bridge loan. You won't profit, but you'll break even. That evening, they tried one last manipulation. Elaine called from her cell, her voice carefully modulated. We're having a family dinner Thursday to discuss healing, moving forward. Dorothy thinks, no, I said simply. You can't just, I can, I choose to. My presence at your table was always conditional on your treatment of me. That condition hasn't been met in 33 years. So you're abandoning your family. I'm choosing my family, the ones who lift me up instead of tearing me down. I hung up and blocked the number, then Richard's, then Cole's. Not with anger anymore, just with clarity. Wednesday evening, as Noah and I prepped for Grandview's first holiday event, my phone rang. Unknown local number. Ava, it's Dorothy. My great-aunt's voice was warm, conspiratorial. I wanted you to know I'm proud of you. Rose would be too. You did what I never had courage for. You refused to let them make you small. Thank you, I said, my throat tight. I'm leaving you her recipe box in my will, the original one. Elaine doesn't know it exists. Every card handwritten, including the pumpkin maple chantilly. You're the only one who deserves it. After we hung up, I stood in my kitchen, my commercial kitchen, built with my own hands and dreams, and realized I felt nothing but peace. No guilt, no regret, no lingering need for their approval. Saturday marked 2 weeks since Thanksgiving. Grandview's holiday launch exceeded every expectation. The shelter reported record donations from our redo event. Hart & Co. Social media accounts were permanently deleted after the required apology period. Maplecrest Lodge had a "For Sale by Bank" sign posted. That evening, I stood in Riverside Park where we'd held the redo, now quiet and empty except for Noah, Maya, and Lucia sharing a bottle of wine at a picnic table. Any regrets? Lucia asked. I thought about family, the word that had been wielded like a weapon my entire life. Family meant obligation without reciprocation. Family meant accepting humiliation without protest. Family meant being grateful for scraps while watching others feast on your labor. But also, family meant Maya driving over at dawn with legal folders. Family meant Noah managing a kitchen solo so I could handle the crisis. Family meant Lucia using her expertise to ensure justice. Family meant Aunt Dorothy keeping secrets and passing on treasures. Family meant a community showing up with donations and solidarity. No regrets, I said, joining them at the table. I learned the most important recipe of all. Sometimes the best thing you can do with toxic ingredients is throw them out entirely. The sun set over Maple Ridge, painting the sky in shades of butterscotch and caramel. Somewhere across town, my former family was learning to live with the consequences of their choices. And here, surrounded by my chosen family, I was finally free to rise. Thank you for listening to this story of standing up for yourself and finding your true worth. Where are you listening from today? Please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear if you've ever had to set boundaries with difficult family members. Your support means everything.